Hey there, guys. What we're starting off with now is atomic structure. So, in order to get your heads around it, I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to go back over what actually an atom is and the types of things you might find inside of one. So, some of you may have seen this before, some of you may have been maybe coming across this for the first time, but it's a way that we can describe the tiniest things in the universe, I guess, and try and understand a little bit more about how the universe works, or how the smallest possible things within it work. So we have three things that actually make up the atom. So we have protons. Protons are positively charged. When I say that they're big compared to electrons, electrons pretty much almost don't exist, and protons barely exist themselves. So saying something's 3,000 or 4,000 times bigger than an electron when it's really pretty much nothing itself kind of doesn't explain just how tiny these things are. But inside every single cell, inside every single atom, inside every single cell in your body, you have dozens and dozens of these things. You would be full of billions upon billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of them. All right, so that's just how tiny they are. Protons live in the nucleus, they're positively charged, and they're the things that determine what the element actually is. So they're the thing that turns hydrogen into helium, or sodium into calcium. By changing the number of protons, we change the element. The neutrons that also live inside the nucleus are about the same size as protons. We consider them exactly the same size. They don't have a charge. And because they don't have a charge, they don't really do much other than determine the type of isotope that an element is. Okay, so you can have, for instance, carbon, and carbon wants to have a certain number of things, so a certain number of neutrons inside of it to be nice and stable. Sometimes it has more than that, sometimes it has less than that, and those can make them unstable. Lastly, we have electrons. Electrons are negatively charged, so electrons are where electricity comes from. These are negatively charged, and they spin around the outside like the moon going around Earth, or Earth going around the sun. So they're orbiting around the outside of the nucleus, and these determine what the ion is. We'll get to this in the future. So here I've got a little diagram. So I've got my black circles around the outside. These are the orbits for the electrons. And you can see I've got 1, 2 on the inside circle, because there's only really enough room for 2 of them. These are negatively charged. Think of them like south poles of magnets. They don't really want to be near each other. And the next shell can actually have 8, because it's a little bit bigger. It's a lot further out. And the one after that can have 8 as well. So in the first shell, we've only got room for 2. So here I've drawn the purple ones, positive. They're the protons. The green ones, they don't have a charge. They're neutrons. And the electrons around the outside are the negative things. Every single element wants to have full or completely empty electron shells. So it wants to have either 2 or 0 in this first shell. It wants to either have 8 or 0 in the next shell. And the way that elements go about emptying or filling up their electron shells kind of determines what they are, what they'll become, and how strong those things that they are or become will be. Lastly, before I finish this one, here's the periodic table. You'll get a copy of this, or have access to a copy of this. We have 1, 2, 3 protons. So remember, protons determine which element it is. So if we go down to our periodic table here, and we zoom in, what we're looking for is number 3. Alright, so here's number 1, that's hydrogen, and over on the right hand side, here's number 2, that's helium, and then we have this one here, number 3. So the circles, so whoops, I'll go up, so whoops, I'll zoom out as well. So this one here that has 3 protons, 3 neutrons, and 3 electrons is actually lithium. So lithium is a soft grey metal. It's considered an alkali metal, and so are all the other ones that are in this group, this series of lines down here. Okay, so what I want you to do now is get a copy of this. So writing these things down is way better than just talking about them. We're going to talk about them as well, but getting a copy of this will definitely help you in the long run.